There is a fire inside you that the world cannot see. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg for attention. It burns, quietly, persistently, waiting for you to stop chasing noise and finally listen to the flame. This fire is your purpose, and until you find it, your victories will feel hollow, your struggles will feel senseless, and your days will blur together in a haze of doing without becoming. Purpose is not a luxury. It is not a hobby. It is the anchor that holds you in the storm, the compass that turns chaos into clarity. It is the reason some rise from nothing and others drown in everything. Because when you know why, truly know, the how doesn't break you. It builds you. Every great man or woman who ever left a mark on this earth began not with talent, not with wealth, not with luck, but with a reason so strong it silenced every excuse. Think of Lincoln, born into poverty, griefed by loss after loss. He had no roadmap, no connections, no privilege, but what he had was something deeper, a purpose rooted in justice, carved into his bones by the suffering he saw and the burden he carried. When the world mocked him, underestimated him, abandoned him, he endured, not because it was easy, but because the why was greater than the wounds. That's the secret most never understand. They ask, how do I stay motivated? But motivation is a flicker. Purpose is a furnace. Motivation fades in the face of fear. Purpose grows teeth. Purpose stares fear in the face and walks forward anyway. Without purpose, you will drift. You'll climb ladders leaning against the wrong walls. You'll chase goals that look good in public but feel empty in private. You'll move fast, but go nowhere. But with purpose, even your setbacks become sacred. Even the pain becomes directional. Because you're not wandering, you're becoming. Purpose gives pain a name. It turns hardship into heat, and heat into power. Walt Disney was fired from his first job because his editor said he lacked imagination. He lost businesses, faced bankruptcy, had his creation stolen, but he kept going because he wasn't building cartoons. He was building a world where belief could triumph over doubt, where magic wasn't childish, it was essential. Purpose made him relentless. Purpose made him untouchable. You want to know what separates the great from the good? It's not luck. It's not IQ. It's not resources. It's that the great are willing to suffer more because their why is worth it. The world will test you. It will whisper, you're not ready. It will scream, you should quit. And it will watch to see what you do next. This is where most people fall. Not because they're weak, but because they never decided what they stand for. A person without purpose is like a ship without a keel. It doesn't matter how strong the wind is if you have nothing to hold direction. But once your life is rooted in something greater than comfort, greater than opinion, greater than applause, you become immovable. Purpose does not eliminate the storm. It transforms you into the kind of person who walks through it without flinching. When Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, was imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps, stripped of everything, his family, his freedom, his future, he discovered something extraordinary. He discovered that man can endure almost any suffering if he believes that suffering serves a purpose. Frankl said, those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. That is not just philosophy. That is survival. That is a call to stop looking for comfort and start looking for meaning. The moment you define your purpose, your suffering becomes sacred. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, how is this shaping who I must become? The purpose-driven person does not fear failure. They understand that failure is not the opposite of purpose. It is proof that you are in pursuit of something worthy. When Thomas Edison was asked how it felt to fail 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb, he replied, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That is the power of a man driven by vision. He wasn't experimenting for fame, he was trying to bring light to the world, and so every setback was not a sentence, it was a step. Your purpose is not a job title. It is not something you find on a personality test or in a quiet weekend retreat. Purpose is born in struggle. It is clarified in resistance. It is tested in silence. It's what keeps you writing when no one reads. It's what gets you up at 5 a.m. when nobody's watching. It's what tells you, this matters. Keep going, even if it hurts, because your life is not measured by what you achieve, but by what you awaken in others through the pursuit of what matters most. There is a reason you've been through what you've been through. There is a reason your soul stirs at certain things and stays silent at others. There is a reason your dreams won't let you sleep. That is not coincidence. That is the whisper of your calling, and it will not stop until you listen. You don't need permission. You don't need guarantees. You need one thing, a decision. Decide who you must become. Decide what your life will stand for, and then build a mind, a routine, a world around that decision. Purpose isn't found. It is built, brick by brick, out of clarity, courage, and conviction. So many people wait. They wait for clarity to strike like lightning. They wait for someone to tell them what they were born to do. But life doesn't work that way. Purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. And only the disciplined can hear it through the noise. You must go looking for it. Not in the world, but in yourself. Because the truth is, it's already there. Every struggle you faced, every moment of discomfort, every time you asked, there has to be more than this, that was purpose knocking. It doesn't always come in grand visions. Sometimes it begins in frustration. Sometimes in heartbreak. Sometimes in a quiet, gut-level knowing that you're meant for something greater than what you're currently settling for. But once it reveals itself, even just a fragment of it, you'll never be the same again. Purpose gives you a reason to suffer well, to endure with direction, to stop avoiding the fire and start walking into it, because you understand that fire is the forge. Ask any builder of empires, ask Carnegie, ask Ford, ask Jobs, ask any soul who reshaped the world from the inside out. They weren't just driven by dreams, they were possessed by purpose. Andrew Carnegie didn't just want steel, he wanted legacy. He wanted to build bridges that connected nations. He wanted to build men, not just industry. His work wasn't just strategy, it was service. When Henry Ford set out to build an automobile for the average man, he wasn't just inventing a machine, he was igniting a movement. Mobility, freedom, empowerment. Ford's purpose wasn't in mechanics, it was in possibility. And possibility is what purpose unlocks. Because once you know why you must keep going, the limits fall away. The doubts get quieter, the vision gets louder, and your life begins to move with force. But purpose alone is not enough. It must be followed with discipline. Because the stronger your purpose, the more resistance you'll meet. Why? Because purpose threatens mediocrity. Because purpose is proof that you will not settle, and that makes comfort uncomfortable. Discipline is the guardrail that protects purpose from distraction. It is what gets you to the gym when motivation is dead. It's what keeps your promises when no one is watching. It's what rewires the wiring, from convenience to conviction. Most people think they're tired, but they're not tired. They're uninspired, disconnected, wandering through life without an anchor. Purpose is your anchor. Discipline is the chain. And together, they create direction. There is no man or woman of greatness who hasn't been broken. But broken with purpose is not destruction. It's reconstruction. The clay must be shattered before it is shaped. The steel must be struck before it is sharp. The soul must be tested before it is trusted. Purpose tells you, this pain has meaning. It whispers, this season is not the end, it's the shaping. It reminds you that what you are building is not ordinary, so you cannot expect an ordinary process. You will lose people. You will outgrow comfort. You will walk alone, but purpose will walk with you. It will be the voice that says, keep going, when your body says stop. It will be the light in the tunnel, not at the end, but in it. Because purpose is not the reward, it is the path. And that path must be walked with vision. Without vision, purpose fades. Without vision, you begin to question if any of this is worth it. But with vision, you begin to live like the future is already yours. You begin to see it. And what you see repeatedly, you start to believe. And what you believe becomes what you build. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Close your eyes and walk through it in your mind like you're already there. Not because it's a fantasy, but because that's how belief takes root. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief does not exist without vision. And vision does not exist without purpose. They are not separate traits. They are parts of the same fire. This is why drifting kills dreams. Drifting is not laziness. It's the slow decay of purpose through distraction, through comparison, through waiting. It's the man who says, I'll start when I feel ready. It's the woman who says, someday I'll figure out what I'm meant for. But purpose is not patient. If you ignore it, it will go quiet. But it will never disappear. It will ache inside you, behind every success that feels shallow, behind every smile that feels forced. You weren't born to drift. You weren't made to make it through the day. You are here to move something, to create something, to become something that cannot be ignored. And it starts by answering the question, why am I here? Not what can I get, but what must I give? Because purpose is never about accumulation. It's about alignment. Alignment with your deepest values. Alignment with something eternal. Something that feels so real, so undeniable, that you are willing to sweat for it, cry for it, bleed for it. Don't settle for a life that looks good and feels wrong. Don't wear someone else's dream like a mask. The world will tempt you to shrink, to play it safe, to chase applause and call it purpose. But that kind of success is a prison. Gilded, yes, but still a prison. Real success begins when you stop asking, what do I want, and start asking, who am I called to become? Your purpose isn't just for you. It's bigger than your fears, bigger than your doubts, bigger than your ego. Purpose is legacy, and legacy is never built by accident. The man who wakes up only for himself dies long before his body gives out. But the man who wakes up for something, for someone, for a cause that outlives him, that man becomes immortal. Because it is not your comfort the world will remember. It is your contribution. It is the weight of your presence and the strength of your absence. The day you discover your purpose is the day your existence becomes a mission. And missions are not optional. They are not casual. They are carried out with precision, or not at all. But here is what most people miss. Your purpose does not arrive fully formed. It must be uncovered, refined, fought for, sometimes painfully through action. Clarity is not something you wait for. It is something you earn through movement. A man standing still cannot find direction. It is only once you start walking that you can turn, pivot, discover. You may begin building one thing only to realize it was just the foundation for something greater. That's not failure, that's alignment. That's your soul shedding the unnecessary to make room for the extraordinary. So start, even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain, even if your voice shakes and your hands tremble. Because motion reveals meaning. You will never think your way into purpose. You must act your way into it. Action is the bridge between knowing and becoming, between dreams and destiny. And that bridge is built brick by brick, through discipline. Not the glamorous kind, not the loud, dramatic, look-at-me kind, but the silent kind, the kind that shows up when no one claps, the kind that keeps building when no one's watching, the kind that makes your future self proud. Discipline is what turns a spark of purpose into an unstoppable fire, because purpose without discipline is a fantasy. It flickers, it dies in the face of resistance. But discipline, daily, relentless, intentional, transforms purpose into reality. Understand this, you don't need more motivation, you need more alignment. When you're aligned with your purpose, you don't need to push yourself, you are pulled. You don't need to be forced to grow, you hunger for growth. You don't need someone to wake you up, because your dream does it for you. That's what purpose does. It makes discomfort feel holy. It makes obstacles feel like invitations. It makes time irrelevant, because when you're on fire inside, the hours disappear. But purpose will test you. Don't think that once you find it, the road gets easier. It won't. If anything, it gets harder. Because once you've declared what matters to you, the universe demands you prove it. It will send delay. It will send betrayal. It will send silence. And in that silence, it will ask, do you still believe? It's not trying to break you. It's trying to build you, to see if your purpose is just a preference or a vow. This is where most people give up. They think the resistance means they're going the wrong way. But resistance doesn't mean you're off path. It means you're on the right path, and the old version of you is dying. Let it. Let the comfort go. Let the indecision go. Let the old patterns crumble. You cannot carry the weight of greatness with the habits of mediocrity. Think of Harriet Tubman. Born into chains, yet she broke them not only for herself but for hundreds of others. She didn't have a map. She became the map. Each step forward wasn't just courage. It was conviction. She didn't ask for permission. She followed purpose. And purpose led her through forests, fear, and fire. She didn't wait until she was safe. She walked while she was still hunted. Because some people are so aligned with their why that fear becomes irrelevant. It's not that it disappears, it just gets quiet in the presence of destiny. That is the level you must reach, where your vision is louder than your doubt, where your calling is greater than your craving for comfort, where the pain of staying the same outweighs the pain of growth. And when you reach that level, doors open. Not because you waited, not because you were lucky, but because your energy changes, the right people recognize it. Opportunities begin to find you because you are finally operating from a place of truth, not survival. People are drawn to purpose. It's magnetic, it cuts through the fake, it commands attention without asking, because it is rare, because it is real. You want influence? Stop chasing attention. Start standing in conviction. The man or woman who speaks from purpose doesn't need to convince, they resonate. But understand this too, purpose is not a moment, it is a lifestyle. You don't arrive at purpose, you practice it, you live it. You wake up and recommit to it daily, and when life tries to distract you, derail you, detour you, you come back to that inner vow. This is who I am. This is what I was built for. This is what I must do, no matter what. That is power. That is peace. That is how you survive the how, because you never forget the why. There will come a moment, maybe today, maybe years from now, when life will hit you harder than you thought possible. It won't be poetic. It won't be clean. It'll feel like everything you've built is crumbling, and in that moment, you will be tempted to forget who you are, to abandon the work, to silence the voice that once burned with purpose. But hear this, that moment is not your ending. It is your invitation. The world doesn't test the weak, it tests the willing. The ones who said, I will rise, the ones who declared, this matters, the ones who dared to believe that their life was meant to mean something. And so the world will ask, how much do you mean it? Are you still committed when it hurts? Do you still believe when there's no applause? That's the question, that's the moment where most retreat. But the ones who stay, they become legends. Adaptability is not just a survival trait, it's a mark of greatness. The man who adapts does not break. He bends, he studies the winds of change, and he moves with intention. When Darwin spoke of evolution, he didn't say the strongest survived. He said the most responsive to change did. Purpose without adaptability becomes brittle, idealism without realism. But purpose with adaptability becomes unstoppable. It becomes a river, not a rock, and the river carves through mountains because it flows forward no matter what stands in the way. You must become like water, flexible but focused, shapeless but still sure, because the world will not hand you the perfect conditions. It will hand you the chaos and ask you to create meaning from it. Do you think Nelson Mandela's purpose dissolved during 27 years of imprisonment? No, it deepened, because the environment doesn't own the soul, only your agreement does. Mandela chose not to break. He adapted. He used his time to sharpen his thinking, deepen his understanding and strengthen his resolve. He didn't just wait, he prepared. And when the world was finally ready, his purpose emerged not weakened but weaponized with wisdom. That's the kind of soul purpose creates, not soft, not convenient, but tested, trusted, true. You don't control the storm, but you can control who you become in it. And that, more than anything, determines your rise. Resilience is forged in the places no one sees. It's built in the late nights when doubt screams louder than dreams. It's born in the moments you want to quit, and something inside you whispers, not yet. That whisper is everything. It's your higher self, reaching through the noise of fear. It's your purpose, reminding you that growth doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like pain. But that pain is not the enemy. It is the invitation to mastery, to sharpen your mind, to deepen your faith, to stand even when it feels like you're falling apart. The world will admire your results, but you must admire the process, because the process is where the real victory lives. There is a version of you that already exists, stronger, clearer, bolder, purpose-driven, vision-aligned, unshakable. You've seen glimpses of that version in your best moments, when you speak from conviction instead of insecurity, when you choose courage over comfort, when you create instead of consume. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is your future self, waiting for you to decide to become him, to become her. And the only bridge to that future is action. So start walking. Not when it's easy, not when the timing is right. Now, start with what you have, where you are. No more waiting. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be present. You don't need to have it all figured out. You need to move anyway. Every step you take in alignment with your purpose strengthens the foundation under your feet. It tells the world, I will not bow. It tells the resistance, I am not asking, I am becoming. That is what purpose does. It doesn't just fuel action, it demands it, and it transforms that action into impact. When you live from purpose, you stop chasing applause and start chasing alignment. You stop asking, how do I look? And start asking, am I in integrity? You stop running from adversity because you understand that it's not in the way, it is the way. That's how warriors are made. Not by wishing things were easier, but by choosing to be stronger. And that strength is not in your body, it is in your mind, your spirit, your refusal to break. Not because you never fall, but because you rise every single time. There's a fire inside you right now, burning behind your excuses, your fear, your distractions. You feel it every time you hesitate, every time you shrink, every time you choose comfort and then wonder, why does this feel so empty? It's because you were never meant to settle. You were born with purpose in your blood. You were made to create, to lead, to build something that matters. And every day you ignore that calling, a part of you dies quietly, not loudly but slowly, like a dimmer switch on the soul. But you can flip it back on, right now. You can decide, not later, not next year, not when it feels safe, but in this very breath, that your life is not going to be lived on autopilot, that from this moment forward you will rise, you will rebuild, you will remember why you were given breath in the first place. Because the world doesn't need more followers, it needs more fire, more people so obsessed with why they exist that they cannot be stopped by how hard it gets. People who are not just dreamers, but doers. Who feel the weight of their mission in their bones, who show up every day, not to impress, but to express, not to win likes, but to wage war against mediocrity. You are one of them. You are not here by accident. You are here for something far greater than comfort. You are here to move something, to shake something, to become someone the world cannot ignore. But with all this fire, with all this force, you must not forget the one thing that keeps purpose pure: gratitude. Because without gratitude, purpose turns into pressure. It becomes a burden, a race, a weight, and you begin to chase greatness for validation, not for contribution. Gratitude humbles you. It reminds you that you don't have to do this. You get to do this. You get to wake up with breath in your lungs. You get to choose your path, forge your character, and write your name into history, not as a passenger, but as the author. Every sunrise is a page. Every decision is ink. And gratitude is what keeps your hands steady when the storms come, because they will come. But storms are easier to endure when you've trained yourself to see the gift, even in the pain. Gratitude sharpens your vision. It clears away the fog of entitlement, of frustration, of comparison. You stop looking at what you lack, and you start building with what you have. Walt Disney lost everything before he created his empire: bankruptcy, lawsuits, betrayals. But he never lost wonder. He believed in the impossible, not because it made sense, but because it made him come alive. He stayed grateful for the vision, grateful for the chance to keep dreaming even when others called him foolish. That's what made the difference. Not the talent, not the money, but the posture of gratitude that transformed setbacks into stepping stones. When you combine gratitude with purpose, you become magnetic. You stop grasping, you start giving, you stop performing, you start becoming. And this shift, it changes everything. You're no longer moved by trends, opinions, or fear. You're rooted, steady, clear. And that clarity is priceless. Most people live in confusion. They change direction with every whisper of doubt, every wave of opinion. But clarity cuts through chaos. It doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from alignment with your values, your purpose, your why. Clarity doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It stands still and calls you higher. And when you answer that call, the path may not get easier, but you will get stronger. Learning becomes natural because you're no longer feeding your ego. You're feeding your mission. You read, you listen, you reflect, not to look smart, but to serve better. That's the heart of mastery. Every great achiever was once a curious beginner. Every empire was once a sketch on a napkin. Every innovator was once mocked before they were praised. Edison failed 10,000 times, not because he loved failure, but because he loved growth. He saw every failure as feedback, every mistake as a mentor. That's the mindset you must adopt, not perfection, not performance, but progress. Lifelong learning is not an academic pursuit, it's a spiritual one. Because the more you grow, the more you become, the more you can give. And that's the final evolution of purpose, not just to succeed, but to serve. To live not just for your gain, but for the impact you leave behind. Success that ends with you is a dead end, but success that flows through you, that's legacy. That's immortality. Think of Mother Teresa. She didn't build skyscrapers, she built lives. And though she had no fame in the beginning, no resources, no platform, she had something far greater, a mission. And that mission became movement. Because selfless purpose has a ripple effect no algorithm can measure. Don't just chase success. Become significance. Become the reason someone doesn't give up. Become the story someone tells when they're explaining why they finally chose to believe in themselves. Your words, your work, your example, these are seeds. Plant them with love. Water them with consistency. And trust that the harvest will come, even if you never live to see it fully. Purpose is not ego-driven. It's legacy-driven. It asks, how will I leave this world better than I found it? Not just for those I love, but for everyone I touch. And you will touch more lives than you know. Your presence, your energy, your resilience, they speak. Long before your words ever do. People are always watching, not for perfection, but for permission. Permission to be real, to be vulnerable. To fight for something even when it costs. When you live from purpose, you give others permission to do the same. That's how movements begin, not with noise, but with alignment. And so here's the truth. You will fall. You will fail. You will feel like you're moving in circles sometimes, but that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being refined. The path to purpose is not linear. It is layered, complex, sacred. It will cost you comfort, certainty, and sometimes relationships. But it will give you something far greater in return. Peace. Not the peace that comes from everything going right, but the peace that comes from knowing you are right where you're meant to be. That kind of peace doesn't shake, it doesn't crack, it doesn't beg for approval, because it is rooted in the one thing no one can take from you, the fire inside that says, I was born for this. So now, here you are, at the edge of a choice that will define everything. Not just your results, not just your reputation, but your reality. The question is no longer, can you? You've always been capable. The real question is, will you? Will you wake up tomorrow with fire in your chest or doubt in your heart? Will you carry your mission with conviction or bury it in excuses? Will you rise to become the person you were born to be? Or will you settle for the one the world told you to be? Because this life, it is not a rehearsal. There are no do-overs. There is only this breath, this beat, this moment. And in this moment, you get to decide what your name will mean. Purpose is not a title. It's not a job. It's not a trend. It is the deep, eternal why behind everything you do. It's what turns labor into legacy, motion into meaning, sacrifice into significance. And if you're brave enough to follow it, to say yes to the fire instead of the fear, then the world will not remain the same after you pass through it. You will become a force, not loud, not boastful, but undeniable. You'll walk into a room and change its frequency, not because you demand attention, but because you carry intention. And the world bends to those who walk in alignment. So look around you. This is your battlefield. This is your blessing. Don't wait for perfect. Don't wait for signs. Don't wait for someone to tell you you're worthy. You are already enough. You're already equipped. You are already chosen by the very breath you were given. This life, this rare, raw, sacred life, is asking you to stop running, stop hiding, and start building. Not next week. Not next year. Now. You have something to give. Something the world is starving for. A voice, a vision, a mission. It's not random, it's not small, and it's not optional. You've been entrusted with it, and that means you're responsible for it. Responsibility is not a weight, it's a weapon. It's how warriors walk, not with arrogance, but with assignment. That's you now. You are no longer chasing goals, you are chasing God's assignment. Whatever you call that force, your creator, your calling, your conscience, it's been calling for you all along. And now, it's your turn to answer. Answer with discipline. Answer with vision. Answer with love. Answer with obsession. Answer with everything in you. Because halfway doesn't create history. This is your chance to become the kind of person who doesn't need to find purpose anymore because they embody it. Where every step you take is laced with meaning. Where every word you speak is backed by belief. Where every move you make is driven by something bigger than you. That's where freedom lives. Not in chaos, not in comfort, but in clarity. Clarity is freedom. Purpose is power. Alignment is destiny. When those three come together, you become a force that no fear can shake, no failure can stop, no voice can silence. Because when you know your why, you can survive anyhow. Pain doesn't stop you, it sharpens you. Loss doesn't break you, it builds you. Rejection doesn't define you, it refines you. And the world finally sees what you've known all along, that you were not made to fit in. You were made to lead, to ignite, to transform, to elevate. So rise. Walk out of the old version of you like it's a shell you've outgrown. Walk with a fire that makes the world take a step back and notice. Not because you shouted, but because your silence carried weight. Walk with eyes that no longer look around for permission, but lock forward toward destiny. Walk with a spine made of iron and a heart lit with vision. Not someday, not maybe, but now. Because this is your time. This is your moment. This is your life. And from this day forward, you will never again wonder if you're on the right path. You will create it, with purpose, with fire, with everything you are and everything you're becoming. But purpose, real purpose, does something else too. It wakes you up, not just from your sleep, but from your life, from the autopilot routines, from the half-hearted goals, from the shallow noise of chasing things that don't matter. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask, am I alive or just functioning? Because there's a difference. A man can be busy and still be broken. A woman can be productive and still feel lost. Activity is not purpose. Motion is not meaning. But awareness is everything. The awakened mind sees what others miss. It sees the moments, the people, the signs. It listens when the world is screaming. It slows down when everyone else speeds up. And in that stillness, it begins to hear a different voice. Not the critic, not the crowd, but the call. That ancient pull inside you that says you were made for more than fitting in, more than surviving, more than checking boxes and calling it a life. You were made to move mountains, to shatter the mold, to awaken the world around you by first awakening yourself. You don't need more information, you need more intention. You need to stop asking the world what it wants from you and start asking your soul what it requires of you. Because when the soul speaks, it doesn't negotiate. It demands honesty. It demands depth. It demands that you stop pretending and finally live as the person you've always known yourself to be, underneath the fear, the armor, the story. That person is still there. That person is you. Unedited, uncompromising, unapologetically alive. You want transformation? Then stop dipping your toes into your dreams and dive. Drown your excuses, starve your fears, silence the need for external validation and build a life that screams truth, not surface-level success. Not borrowed ambition, but truth as you define it. That's what will make you unstoppable. Not hype, not hustle porn, but alignment. Because a man in alignment is more dangerous than a man with an army. A woman on fire with clarity will shake the foundations of any room she enters. You don't need louder marketing. You need deeper meaning. Your purpose isn't just something to do, it's someone to become. And becoming that person isn't a side project, it's the main mission. So change how you move, change how you wake up, change how you breathe, walk, speak. Let every moment be a reflection of the fire inside you. Speak like it matters, act like it matters, live like it matters, because it does. The world needs your obedience to the calling only you can hear. It needs your voice, your conviction, your refusal to shrink. And no, not everyone will understand. Some will mock it, some will envy it, some will try to distract you from it. But you don't need their permission to rise. You don't need their applause to begin. Because purpose is not a popularity contest, it's a private contract between you and your higher self. And the day you signed that contract, the universe took notice. It began opening doors you never saw before. It began rearranging events to sharpen your edge. It began putting you through fire, not to destroy you, but to forge you. You weren't being punished, you were being prepared. Prepared for the calling, prepared for the pressure. prepared to carry a vision that weak minds would abandon. You are not here to live a neutral life. You are here to live a charged one, a bold one, a life that makes people whisper when you walk by, "That one's different." Not because of money, not because of fame, but because of energy, because of essence, because you know who you are, and you walk like it. You walk like a mission is burning in your chest, like time is short, like excuses have expired, like this is it, because it is. This moment is everything. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's yours. No more waiting for a better time. No more waiting until you're ready. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. And the decision must be made daily, not once, not in a journal, not in theory. But every morning your feet hit the ground, you declare, "This day will not go to waste. This breath will be invested. This life will not be lived quietly." Because quiet obedience to purpose makes the loudest impact. And once you start walking like that, once you stop apologizing for your clarity, the world starts moving differently around you. It doesn't always get easier, but it gets clearer, sharper, more focused. You no longer drown in indecision. You no longer hand your time to distractions dressed up as opportunities. You begin to guard your hours like a warrior guards the gate. Because when you know why you're here, you stop tolerating anything that pulls you away from it. Your yes becomes sacred, your no becomes strategic, and your time becomes untouchable. This is what it means to live on assignment, to operate as if your breath is borrowed, because it is. Every day you wake up is not just another Tuesday. It's a chance to get closer to who you were created to become. But understand this truth. Your destiny does not come to you fully formed. It's not handed to you in a box. It is earned through devotion and revealed through discipline. Destiny does not scream, it whispers, and only those willing to sit with the silence will ever hear it clearly. That's why the world is so loud. Because noise is the enemy of knowing, and most people would rather be entertained than elevated. But not you. You've seen what happens when you ignore the whisper too long. You've tasted the regret of postponing your soul's assignment. You've played small, and you've felt the weight of that betrayal. Not betrayal of the world. Betrayal of yourself. And now you're done. Done pretending you don't know what you carry. Done diluting your vision to make others comfortable. Done breaking yourself to fit inside a life that doesn't reflect your spirit. There is power in that decision. Because when you truly decide, not wish, not hope, but decide, the universe rearranges itself in response to your resolve. And life stops being a battle you fight and becomes a mission you live. That's what purpose does. It doesn't remove all struggle. It simply gives your struggle meaning. It sanctifies the suffering. It baptizes the breakdowns. It turns pain into prophecy. And here's the paradox. The higher your purpose, the harder your path. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be doubted. You'll be stretched, bent, challenged at every level. But don't resent the weight. Welcome it. Because nothing powerful is built in ease. Mountains aren't moved by comfort. Legends aren't forged in convenience. Purpose calls you to build what doesn't yet exist. To create what only you can bring into the world. To push through ridicule, resistance, and rejection until you've made the invisible inevitable. Think of Lincoln, how he was ridiculed, defeated, dismissed, but never disconnected from the mission. His life was not one of applause, but one of conviction. And that conviction changed history. Not because he was perfect, not because he was popular, but because he refused to be moved by anything but the call. That's how movements are made, by those who are more loyal to the truth than to the trends. You are not here to be liked, you are here to be used, by purpose, by principle, by legacy. And legacy is not about what you leave behind, it's about what you leave within, in the people you raise, the strangers you impact, the generations that speak your name not because you were loud, but because you were aligned. So here's what you must ask yourself daily. Am I building what matters? Am I obeying the fire inside me? Am I serving the future, or just surviving the present? Because you can live 90 years and still die unborn. You can accomplish everything society celebrates and still feel that aching emptiness of a life lived off course. But when you walk in purpose, when you walk with fire, with faith, with focused obedience, you don't chase fulfillment, you become it. And yes, you will be tested. Your patience will wear thin. Your progress will feel slow. Your mind will want to negotiate, to go back to comfort, to shrink when things get real. But this is where mastery begins. When your emotions scream quit and your spirit whispers continue. When everything in you aches, but you still rise, still show up, still choose the path with weight, because weight is what makes you strong. You don't become great by wanting it. You become great by withstanding what it takes to walk it. And that's why most don't make it, because greatness isn't gifted, it's gritted. But you are no longer the version of yourself that needs to be convinced. You've seen the fire, you've felt the call, you've answered, and now you don't chase motivation. You are the motivation. You don't need others to understand. You don't need applause, support, or a perfect plan. You only need one thing, to remember who you are. A soul on a mission, a warrior of the unseen, a force that cannot be bought, broken, or bored. You are the storm, the stillness, the signal. You are the living embodiment of purpose unleashed. So now, breathe. Breathe in everything you've fought through. Breathe in the scars, the silence, the setbacks. Breathe in the long nights no one saw, the decisions no one praised, the pain that shaped you, the fire that forged you. And now, breathe out everything that no longer belongs. The doubt, the fear, the smallness, the illusion that you ever needed to be anything other than exactly who you are, a soul chosen for something greater. Because you were not placed here to conform. You were placed here to consecrate, to take this brief moment we call life and ignite it with meaning. Let them call you obsessed, let them call you intense, let them call you crazy, because every soul who ever changed the world was first called insane by those too afraid to try. But you don't live in fear anymore. You live in clarity. You live in that rare place where every heartbeat is a declaration. I will not die with my purpose still locked inside me. Let that be your vow, not to be successful, not to be remembered, but to be used completely. To leave this world empty, because you poured everything you had into the mission. You see, purpose doesn't care if you're tired, purpose doesn't care if the odds are stacked, purpose doesn't wait for approval. It only asks, are you willing? Are you willing to rise when no one's watching? Are you willing to sacrifice pleasure for power? Are you willing to speak the truth when silence is safer? Are you willing to become who you were born to be, even if it costs you the version of yourself the world once accepted? Because that is the price of greatness. Not comfort, not applause, but conviction. Conviction that doesn't waver when storms rage. Conviction that doesn't fold when you feel alone. Conviction that holds the line when everything tries to pull you back. And so I ask you, not as a writer, not as a speaker, but as a witness to your potential, what will you build with this life? What legacy will bleed from your fingertips? What vision will be born because you refuse to stay asleep? You don't need permission. You don't need guarantees. You only need to begin. And once you do, truly begin, you will become dangerous to everything that ever held you back. Fear cannot hold a soul on fire. Doubt cannot touch a mind locked on destiny. Obstacles become stairs. Delay becomes discipline. Pain becomes proof. So walk now. Walk with the fire of 1,000 suns behind your eyes. Walk like your ancestors prayed for this moment. Walk like your children will live in the world you build. Walk like every step is sacred, because it is. This is not just your story anymore. It is the story of everyone you will ever impact, everyone who will rise because you did, everyone who will find their voice because you used yours. Don't you dare die with your greatness unspoken. Don't you dare waste the miracle of existence. Don't you dare let the lies of fear win. You were not born to blend in. You were born to burn bright. So rise, with purpose, with vision, with iron discipline and relentless fire. Don't chase success, command it. Don't hope for a better life, build it. Don't pray for direction, become the direction. And if anyone asks how you keep going, how you keep rising, how you keep walking through hell with your head high and your heart full, you look them in the eye and say, because I know why. And when you know why, you can survive anyhow.